JJK 258 leaks are here and strap in. Strap in. The chapter begins with the narrator explaining how Gojo got his RCT back after hitting 2 black flashes against Sukuna. There is no flashback to Gojo here, it's still just in the present with Yuji, but the narrator's explaining this, and saying how Sukuna was also going to get his RCT back to regrow his limbs, but he actually couldn't because Yuji prevented him from doing that by hitting him with all of those black flashes last chapter. The narrator even specifically mentions that Yuji's black flashes were specifically hitting that barrier between Sukuna and Megami's souls. However, Sukuna instantly pops his domain and it is this abomination. It is not the malevolent shrine we're used to seeing. It appears as if maybe the 10 shadows has been infused into it or something, but it is this grotesque amalgamation, massive structure. And the narrator says the king's domain has returned along with the black sparks. Next, everything in the surrounding area starts to get slashed. It's just like when the Malevolent Shrine destroyed a large portion of Shibuya, and it does seem to be slashes, so I don't know if he actually infused 10 shadows or not. I'm reacting to this as it's coming. We may get more clarity, but the narrator says, despite including uncertain elements and including binding vows, Sukuna has replicated Malevolent Shrine without dropping its effective range after experiencing the Black Flash. So, replicating it, I don't know what that means necessarily. Again, hopefully getting more confirmation, but like the entire city is just getting destroyed by this thing. You then cut to another flashback and still no Gojo, where Hakari says it's going to be important for us to learn RCT and domain countermeasures before we go up against Sukuna. And Choso says, if it's RCT, don't worry, Yuji and I can manage that somehow. And Yuji is wondering, how? Choso then asks the people that already know how to do RCT how they compensate for their blood when they regenerate their body. Hakari says it's just automatic for him, and Akotsu says he just goes on instinct. However, Shoko says she uses cursed energy and converts it into blood. So Choso says he's able to convert his cursed energy into blood because of his curse technique. So if Yuji eats the remaining curse wound death paintings, he too will gain that curse technique and be able to do the same thing. So we kind of got explicit confirmation last chapter, but now we have it doubled down that Yuji did indeed eat the curse wound death paintings, and that's how he has blood manipulation. Choso goes on to say that because he and Yuji are going to be able to create blood with their curse techniques, RCT is going to be easier for them because they won't have to do that step of RCT. So Choso then says we need to make sure Yuji is paired up with somebody that can do RCT when we do the body swap training. And Yuji's like, wait, what? And it's revealed that Ui, as part of his curse technique, can swap the souls between bodies. We finally have an answer for that damn Kusakabe panel. It was the groomed one. Kusakabe then chimes in and says because Yuji was taken over by Sukuna's body, Yuji's body remembers that special grade jujutsu, and they're going to take advantage of that fact by using Ui's soul swapping ability. But he chimes in and says he can only do that once a month, so they'll only be able to do it 2 times total in this kind of training arc before the Sukuna fight. So first, Yuji is going to swap with Kusakabe, so Kusakabe can teach his body some cursed energy manipulation and the simple domain. We then cut back to the present where Yuji is using the simple domain to withstand Sukuna's domain. And he notices that Sukuna's domain is incomplete somehow. There's some loophole here, and that's part of the reason that Yuji is able to endure this with the help of the simple domain. The narrator then reveals that Sukuna can't keep up this high-level domain for long, and also that he can't capture Maki inside of it due to her heavenly restriction. Next, we get this gorgeous, like, full double spread of just the chaos of this domain. The top half looks almost like a massive tornado with all of this rubble just being flung around. And then the bottom half is our heroes who are just trying their best to withstand this onslaught, and Choso screams out for his brother. It's at this point that Yuji's simple domain starts to crack and then ultimately shatter. He is bombarded with slashes, including one that takes off his foot completely, but he's pretty much unbothered by this, and as he's gathering himself up, he notices that the slashes have stopped. He thinks that they've survived this onslaught. But he looks up only to see Sukuna casting the flames, and it's not blacked out this time. What Sukuna is apparently saying is something to the equivalent of kitchen stove open or kitchen hearth open. So this man is literally dicing up his food and about to cook it. And that's where the chapter ends. That's where the damn chapter ends, and there's a damn break next week. So don't get your hopes up. We're going to have to wait through a long ass lobotomy Kaisen to figure out what happens next. And the editor's note was flames of certain death are closing in. But just shut up, okay? Nobody wants to hear that. I'm taking it with a massive grain of salt. Like, could you have been kinder to us leading into this 2 week break? Like, just chill, okay? Last week, they said Yuji was surpassing the king, so we don't trust the editors anymore, okay? Everything's gonna be fine. They're not the flames of certain death, you know? It's the flames of certain third-degree burns max, you know? Just let me have this. Man, what a chapter. What a chapter. What was that domain? That thing was grotesque. And like, was it the 10 shadows? Like, I don't know. There was so much talk about like he strung it together with binding vows and duct tape or something. Like, I'm very curious what exactly was going on there. We didn't, I mean, maybe the more like thorough translations when those come out will shed some light, but it also just might be a situation where we don't know yet. It wasn't revealed in this chapter. But if you haven't seen the panels yet, like go look at them because that thing was crazy. And I think it did kind of look Tin Shadowsy because you know Megami had that huge spine in the back of his incomplete domain. This domain kind of looked like if that was complete, sort of. I don't know. Y'all have to let me know what you think. But man, not only that, we find out the groomed one is responsible for the soul swap. That was such a cool reveal that I did not see coming at all. I didn't see anybody speculate that. So that's just really cool. I love that. It somehow makes perfect sense to me, you know? He can teleport people, so maybe he can like specifically just teleport the soul between people. And what's really interesting is we find out that he can only do it once a month, but given the time frame, he'll be able to do it twice. But we only talked about how Yuji would swap with Kusakabe to learn the simple domain. So who else did Yuji swap with? I'm so curious. There's, you know, a ton of possibilities, and I want to like think about it some more before I just like throw out any random guesses of who it might have been. Obviously Choso or Kamo, since they have blood manipulation, like maybe he could have learned things from them, but that doesn't feel like it would have been worth it. You know, with Kusakabe it was so he could learn simple domain, right? So like what if he swapped with Gojo to try to learn how to do you know, actual domain or something. And speaking of Gojo, there was no Gojo flashback, unfortunately. We did have that mention of Gojo at the very start of the chapter, but that's not really the same thing. But again, this theory was just kind of, you know, just piecing together things out of the aether. So, you know, I mentioned this the last time I talked about it, but just because there was no Gojo flashback doesn't mean Gojo's not coming back. I still think he is. I mean, again, with things looking kind of Sukuna style right now, maybe Gojo will come back to lend a hand. We're just going to have to see. But yeah, man, what a chapter. I feel like there were 3 other things I wanted to mention. Oh, the flame arrow. We find out that it's not shrine open that he's saying, but apparently kitchen stove, kitchen hearth. So interesting. So maybe everything in his technique revolves around the kitchen, which a lot of people have theorized, right? I still think there could be something more here, especially considering, you know, if he's preparing and cooking all of these things in the kitchen, what happens when he eats them, right? What happens when he consumes them? So a lot to still speculate on, a lot to think about. Let me know y'all's thoughts in the comments. Obviously, this was a Sukuna is up chapter, but it was fire. I'm here for it. No pun intended on the fire, but yeah, loved it. The double spreads were beautiful. Again, if you haven't had a chance to go search out the panels, do that because they're gorgeous. And yeah, let me know y'all's thoughts.